Hi, I'm Christophe Galati. I'm a game creator from France, and thanks for having me. To introduce myself and my work a bit, I'm an indie game developer, so I make games on my own that I release and publish on consoles. So I started making game when I was 12 with RPG Maker, for those who know it, and then continued to do that on my own, learn pixel art, went to a game school to learn programming, and became known for making Save Me Mr. Taco, a platformer RPG game with an octopus character, making a tribute to the Game Boy. And then after making that, I went to an artist residency in Japan called Villa Kujoyama. So I spent 5 months there and started making my new game. And while I was there, I organized game jams and stuff like that. So that's why I'm here today, I guess.
Cool. I will introduce myself then. I'm Facundo Mounes. I'm mostly a game designer. I started as a journalist on video games many years ago, but later I went to game design. I started on PC games, musical games. Then I moved to the social gaming environment, working for Facebook games and mobile games for many years. I also teach. I'm kind of do my games on the side. I'm not as an indie game designer as you, Christophe, but also do games myself and enjoy a lot of game jams, organizing, participating. So it's very long if I introduce myself and add all that, but being here and talking about this experience of connecting on the game jams and different cultures, it really affected my view on the work on all this time, based on my relationship as being Argentinian and having to open to the whole world and developing games for other countries, because we are not like 100% the audience of the games I made. I don't know how that works for you, Christophe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like games, we all play. Well, I don't know. I guess in Argentina, you play the same game as we do. I guess like on Nintendo and PC, and mostly the same market. So I guess games brought us kind of an international culture. In my end, I grew up playing games from Japan mostly. So even if in France we have games like Ubisoft and stuff, I'm the DNA of games that I own and that I'm creating with now. It's kind of really Japanese.
Yeah.
So in France, we often have the debate of what is a French game, what is a French culture in game, but mostly games, they can be everything. So I try to put some of French stuff. I've tried to represent some of my Italian roots also, but mostly the culture and my references in game are Japanese. So going to Japan to create my game really reinforced me into that in some way. But
that is yes. Here we have the same question: what is an Argentinian game, right? What is a French game? And what I was referring to before was about the identity was formed with external cultures, right? You talking about Japan and the Nintendo games you play that affect your vision on what you design. In my case, it was also that, because I started in the same way, but later when I moved professionally to develop games for other audiences, that wasn't me, because that is the thing about the game design, right? You try to do things not always for you. Maybe on the side of being a indie game designer, you have more opportunities to do games that you like. But when you work in other spaces, the expectancy is that you design games for the bigger audience as possible. And I totally feel you. in the way that if you try to do something that looks Japanese and you're French or with Italian roots, and you add that, you're gonna have your own twist. And also happens when I work on the games I worked before, a lot of match-free games, social games, that even if you cannot identify because you're an Argentinian, we have those touches because you cannot escape that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here we had another question. Do you think that the same game is consumed differently in different cultures? I think so. I don't know, Christophe, how you experience the Japanese games being French.
Yeah, I think it's kind of different because we all have our cultural references. So there are references in the games that we won't catch if we don't have the prior knowledge of that culture, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like when I lived in Kyoto for 5 months, like I saw like we went to see like a Maiko and Geisha show, like with dance moves and rotating wooden palettes and stuff. And seeing that, I kind of recognized some stuff I saw in games too, like in Paper Mario when things rotate, and it was kind of reminiscent of that, or the way people move in the streets, or just the rhythm of life in Kyoto. I kind of saw that in many Nintendo games, and before that, living there, I couldn't catch it, but it's so I think we all experience things differently. So even like in game made by Ubisoft, we can see the French jokes, like in localization of games, many things get lost or get endorsed depending on the culture, I guess. So I guess we all see it differently, but the game still is the same. So
that's cool. And if I play one of your games, what I can find as your culture, for example, something that not all the audience will relate or understand directly.
But in my game, I kind of try to put some French stuff sometime. Like there are like bakery with breads and croissant and stuff like that. But there are also like some stuff like that. There are like pizza, there are drag queens and something from the queer culture that I have also. And I guess people don't expect that to be there somehow because the game looks very Japanese. But I'm kind of inspired by history a lot too. So we can also find some references to history, but like maybe like some German history and stuff like that. So I try to put a lot of things, but in my way. So it kind of become a big mix of my own culture because the game I create are an expression of myself. So more than an expression of France, it's more an expression of myself. So all my cultural marker, even from Japanese stuff I saw and watched growing up, it kind of translates directly into what I create.
Well, in my case, if I look back at my games and the games I work for, some are directly related to Argentinian culture. Mostly the ones I design and polish myself, not the commercial ones. Even direct references, not kind, because as you say, you have some things that are very international, like in France, you talk about the croissant or baguette, things like that. And I know because I play also a lot of Japanese games and love Japanese culture, that they love the French culture and they use also those references in other places. But you can have things like, I don't know, in one of my games, I made a reference to a neighborhood here in this city. So that is super local. And I had to explain that beforehand for the people that not belong to this culture. But besides that, I don't know if this is good or not. It's related to the realities of what is the market of this worldwide market where you try to put your product. In other games I work, we try to establish like a mainstream of things that everyone understands. Even if we put our touches, those touches need to be something that everyone can catch and you don't need to explain. I don't know if I feel 100% comfortable with that. I will like try to push push it more, but it's the reality on the professional or the industry. Let's say I don't like that word on the industry in general. Oh, I think this is for you being a pixel artist. I love that.
Yeah. As an artist, I guess, because I learned pixel art by myself, so I don't have like an artist study or background at first. Like I learned from viewing other games at first, like looking retro SNES game or Game Boy games. So that's kind of how I started to learn pixel art, at first by ripping and then making my own stuff. So there are a lot of artistic aspects in game, graphics, music, storytelling, and stuff. But we can learn from a lot of those things by watching and then trying to put our own things in it. Like when I show my game, I wasn't realizing it at first, but people said, "Oh, we can see you are French because of the animations," and I was like,
right. Yeah, you have a lot of that, right? Everyone is like, "Oh, you're from there. You need to animate very good because you have Gobelan and all that in France, right?"
Yeah, but I didn't have a proper animation formation, so I learned from watching other stuff. So I guess all cultural references and image we have on our head kind of translate also in what we draw, and but it's good to have an open eye when making game and not trying to inspire only from the other game, because we have a lot of artistic stuff in our culture, like in France and in Argentina as well. Many painters, many architects, many artists of all kinds, and we can take inspiration in all of that in games. And I
agree 1000%. I would say 100, but it's not even there. I have a lot of students that came without. It's hard to say, right? But you came without a baggage. Maybe you are too young, and are like, okay, I know a lot about video games, and I want to make video games, and you have this kind of endogamic point of view where you make games based on games, and you never really made the media richer in that way. And it happens to be that the as you say, the points of view of every artistry specialty will add to anything you do on video games. With the view of an artist, I feel, I don't know, I am a photographer too. And I will use that because that will inform my view of the world. And don't be afraid of use any of those on a video game, because the video game is the view of an artist, as narrative as anything. It is reductive to think, and I do this because when we have this question, I pass it to you because I know you do pixel art, right? So it was a reductionist view, and the people here was like in the prompt telling me, no, but you're an artist too, and they are right. Yes, I write, I work in other areas, but I like we have this bias, and I like to put it on the table about don't work your bias. Anything you do can be useful in this medium, even if you do, I don't know, paper folding, as you told me before, or I the other day I was looking at dancing moves that inspire video games. So I think it's much bigger than you can imagine, and that is beautiful.
And even games themselves, like at first took inspiration in other cultural stuff, but now games are starting to inspire other media as well. So it's kind of an exchange now, I think, which is interesting. But yeah, it's a form of communication and expression in a big way. For myself, it was a way to tell story about things I saw in life. Games when I grew up were kind of worlds. It became worlds where I escaped from the reality somehow and learn things and learn messages from the creators. So yeah, I think it's a great form of a communication and expression because it allows the player to live the message somehow, go through it and experience it by his action, which is something we don't really have in movies or books, like where we are passive. So I think being active in the narrative, even though the game are many times are linear, we are still going where the game wants us to go. So it's a great way to make the player feel part of the message and feel like he deserves it or he is a part of it. So.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to leave that footprint of your expression on the games and use it as a formal expression of something you want to tell. Not only what the player can do with the game, because you can do a game. It's very easy to do a game where you, I don't know, try to exert the dexterity of the player or things like that. That is not hard to achieve. But doing a game that leaves a message on the player is super rich because the medium is very strong on that regard. You are doing a repetition of things or need to think and react to stuff that happen in the games, and that the message you can communicate or interpret as a player could be much stronger than in other media.
That's a tricky question.
They're throwing us like hardballs. Like, yeah. Thank you, Pablo. Go you first, Christophe.
Well, I have a mixed feeling about publisher, and I have an NDA, so I can't tell many things about them, I guess. But but yeah, publishers are somehow important, and somehow they are not. If I can say something like that, like when you are making your first game, it's important. It can really help to get one for things like consoles market, getting access to publish games on console. Usually you need to have published a game first. So having a publisher allow you to pass that step. For me, it was the case. When I was making Semi Mr. Taco, I couldn't have access to the Nintendo Switch, for example. So I had to go with a publisher to give me that access. So it kind of helped with that and maybe get a bit of fundings or communication. But there are a lot of terrible stories about publisher also, and so it's really tricky to get one and to get a good one, especially in that market which is overflowing now. So now publisher, it's not like it was before, like you make a game, before you make the game, you have already the publisher and stuff. Now you have to already have the game and get the publisher afterhand sometimes. So yeah, they are important, but they can also be you can do many things on your own now because everything is digitalized. You don't have to make physical at all now. So for stuff like Steam or PC or mobile, most of the time it's easier to do things on your own, even though marketing is a big thing. But with now there are like funds and stuff like that, so you can have money for marketing without a publisher. So there are a lot of ways to go without them. But if you can get a great one, it's great.
Yes, that's the recommendation. Get a good publisher for your game.
But be really careful with the one you get and do research before signing anything.
Yeah, totally. I work in the other side because I briefly, like for a year and a half, I work as a producer and a publisher. The question here, because I think we jump to answer it, but the question is that what relationship with publishers. I have been in both sides. As you say, do your research, because in this age you can even the work of the publisher is something that you can do yourself. The thing is that workload, where you want to put it, right? Because it costs money, the marketing costs money, accessing the platforms also costs money, getting So all that is not free, even if you get a publisher, because that will count towards the expenditures you have to cover with the success of the game. So at the end, is you are making your workload easier, but also, and this is the sign of a good publisher, I think, is can you rely on the experience they have to make your product better? So that the research in that regard is not only if they have the reach, but also if they have the professional. And I have the cars passing by. Sorry, and you have the professional. Um, um, I don't have the word. Sorry, the professional people working in that would make your game better. Even the relationship also will go towards be sure that the game you're offering goes with the catalog that they have, and that happened to me a lot because we have a vision. Maybe it wasn't as clear as I expected, but we have a kind of vision, and we receive a lot of being in Argentina and not having that much publishers to reach here. We receive a lot of games that wouldn't work with the catalog we have or the market we are trying to reach. So it requires a little of work beforehand to contact. And being in a jam, you can start because it's not unheard of doing something in a jam that later have commercial success. So it's not. It is good to talk about it too. You never go to a jam with this expecting to do something that you say, okay, I will do the next my next commercial success on this jam, but could happen, but relax, don't think about it. Here is the question is, do you think jam games have something to add on long-term projects? I think it's backwards. It's like if you go to a jam and you are invested on a long-term project, the jams can help you unlock a lot of stress or problems, issues that you have on your current long-term project. I don't know if you use a jam in that way before, Christophe.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of game jam when I was a student in game programming. So it was a great way to express myself and to relieve some stress and to create something I wouldn't do in my projects. So it's a great way to see to get another perspective and start fresh and try to apply what you learn in your main projects into something smaller. And usually it's like an accelerated production in a weekend. So you see a lot of issue and you have to react very fast. So it's very great it makes you think out of the box and apply your skills in a different way. So that's very interesting, and it can add to your own project before, because you will get a lot of new ideas. You will be stimulated into a short amount of time, and it will nourish yourself as a creator or an artist, and everything will be they will translate into your main project, I think.
Yeah, in my personal experience, it's like I almost always work as an organizer on jams. I work also in voluntary for the Global Game Jam. And one thing about it is I didn't have time to work in a project with a team because I had to attend the organization, but always try to find some space to do something myself. So you can always do something, doesn't matter the size. And I took this approach with my relationship with the games, thanks to the jams, about the burnout you can have in bigger projects. So after, I don't know, let's say I work in the same game for 3 years. So I started to do jams and do smaller games, and then smaller games. And I finished that process trying to do a game in 40 minutes. And it was beautiful. It was a very good moment because it unlocked all my creativity and force of will you have towards reaching a larger project, because you have this reward of achieving something in that short time and learn a lot about yourself. So I totally recommend that. Do all the jams you can.
Yeah, and I also have the tendency to kind of lock myself into big projects. So it's really great when you do that to have to have a space to still express yourself. And like, because on your own project you can't show things. Sometimes you feel like you're always doing the same thing and not evolving and not being creative. And doing a jam in this way show you that you still are creative and you're still evolving into your heart and your skills. So it really helps mentally, even though you have to sleep in the jam and you don't have to to do too much, because it's not a good thing to not sleep in a jam.
Please sleep. I totally agree. Sleep. I would love to see the games that came from here. I love this idea of doing with teams internationally. So I will be with my eye open, waiting for the result of this. Thank you, Christophe, for being here talking with me about this. It will be great.
Thank you, and I also can't wait to see what people will be creating the jam. And you can all the participants, you can reach to me if you need any help or advice or stuff like that. So thank you for having me, and can't wait to see.